So let me have a recap. Hello everyone. This is session 10, and in the previous sessions, yes, we looked at a lot of JavaScript functions. We looked at functions, classes, loops, and JavaScript is really wide. So there are some things that we shall see as people are teaching the implementations of JavaScript, and things like destructuring. It will be depending on what will be taught. So in this session 10, we are simply going to look at, start with at least two of the major functions that you see recurring in React. After then, we are going to be looking at how React comes to be and some of the major parts of React and things like that. So for this, I've created two files. One is async_await.html, which is simply an HTML file with a script that is linking to async_await.js. In my async_await.js, I simply have three functions: emo, which just returns 1, and bd, which returns 2, and waits 3 seconds before returning the value of 2, and set, which returns 3. I am 3. Immediately. So we want to see how do these react and work with each other, and then how we can use a promise to make sure that we solve the issues that happen. So when I run this file and I inspect, because I'm consoling, in the console, okay, let me refresh. So here you can say call us. So let me call the function, and after that you look that when I refresh, there is I am 1 undefined and I am 3. So when it reaches to the second, if I dispose this off, disposing, go live, with HTML, inspect, you will see that I am 1 undefined and I am 3. So why do we have such a scenario? We have a such scenario because as this code is executing, and BD is, if you're fetching data from a database, there can be some time frame that is taken between the data being returned and the data being fetched. So we have to find ways of how we can make this execute, or start to wait for BD to execute, then it executes, or simply all of them executing in parallel. And this is where the promise comes in. So if on this one I have, let me just put async and refresh again. Here there will be a result that will say I am 1, promise, and status fulfilled. So that means that at least it shows that, result undefined. It shows that there is a waiting, but the result is not defined because the program is executing simultaneously. So how do we really go about such a thing? Excuse me. So the way we go about such a thing is we can use a promise and async await. So for this, I think I can leave it. Maybe what I can usually do is, since we are going to use this, I'm going to copy it and comment it out. So here, and instead of setting the timeout, so I want to use a promise here. So a promise will wait for a response. So we have seen that actually we can have a response here that will show that there is a fulfillment, or it has failed, as we saw. Okay, since we are doing our code as we saw previously. So here we can have a promise. It's a callback function which takes in two parameters, which is the resolve and reject. And so then now in the resolve, we can have our timeout. So a resolve is a code that will execute when there is something that has been returned or when the response has been received, and reject is the piece of code that will execute when the response has not been received. So we can have a set timeout and then we resolve inside. Yeah, so we have a return and set timeout and then we resolve. If I save this and go back, you will again see that there is a promise, but the status is pending because this code is executing at once. So how do we ensure that before 3 executes, a response is first received by 2 and showed, then 3 executes? That's where we come in, that's where we get the async await. And with async await, we can apply that on our call function. So async await works for connections, connecting to a database. Maybe you're picking something from one API and things like that. So since we are having, since this data is coming from call us, I'll put the async here and await on 2. So await for this BD. This is just a scenario, and after then, and only then, we'll start to execute. Okay, so if I save this and then go back to my, you see that I am 1, I am 2, and I am 3. So everything first waits, and then after receiving all the data, then it will show. So this is one of the ways we can really use async await. Now, taking this in a live case scenario, we are going to just have just to fetch data from our real API. So I can call this Chuck. So there is an API called Chuck Norris, Chuck API.html. As you see today, I'm very deliberate to really separate HTML from JavaScript. So in the body, I can have a script and SRC. So this is the ideal way you write your code. SRC will be maybe Chuck API. Chuck API.js. Okay, So again, here we can create a new file called chuck api.js. So there is there's a website called api.chucknorris.io. I think Chuck Norris API. This simply spills off random jokes by Chuck Norris. So probably I can put this in. It is free of access, so you can access the API and play around with it, as long as you get to know how to fetch data, real data, then real-time data. As long as you get to know how to fetch up this API data, it will be easy for you to work with other APIs. So okay, let me reduce it. So chucknorris.io is a free JSON API for hand-curated Chuck Norris facts. Usage, retrieve a random fact, gives you this, get me a new one, retrieve a random Chuck Norris joke from a given category. So these are called API endpoints, and an API endpoint is simply a URL that will give you data. So there are many ways you can add this to your Facebook, Twitter, what. Now we are just interested in usage of the API. So if I click on this endpoint, you will see that it returns this data, which has categories, created art, and a joke here. So life is like a box of chocolate. They are all for Chuck Norris. So what I want to do is get this in my program and get a way of using it, probably display it on my website. Someone put up a hand. All right, so somebody is asking crucially, what is that? Is it the API? I'm confused. So when you look here, so they say retrieve a random joke in the JSON format. So this is the API endpoint that will return data in this format. So this can also be an API endpoint that says bad request. So I think you need to provide a category and retrieve a list of available categories. So here you can also use this API endpoint to get just category endpoint categories. So an API endpoint is simply the link, this link that you're given. Mostly it's provided in the documentation of the API that you want to use. I think that has been answered. Partly, so we are going to see how we are going to use this link to get that data in our in our application, in our JavaScript HTML application using JavaScript. So for us to get data from an API endpoint, we use the fetch function. It's inbuilt in JavaScript, and it will always take in quotes the API endpoint. So for this one, if it's this one, they say it's a GET request. So we shall look at those, but we have like GET, POST, PUT. So these are requests that are used for interacting with the backend or the database. So we are now just trying to simply use this request to manipulate real-time data that is coming from a database. So for us to access that database, we have just been given a link, which we are calling the endpoint. And that link, when we use it, it retrieves a random joke from the Chuck Norris joke database, from the Chuck Norris database of jokes. I think that's it. So we usually use the fetch, and then when we put in the URL, we use the .then, and we can use this. After the .then, we can use another .then. So this means maybe this can be in here, can be like I don't know if this is possible. Okay, this is possible. So do something and return maybe return a promise. Then after doing this and returning a promise, then from that promise do something. So this .then comes from after doing this. After you do this, then do that. So in case of an error, this .then can be infinite, depending on what you're doing. Then in case there is an error, you use the .catch. So this is the way we write a function to fetch data from an API. There are other they are called libraries that can be used for this, like Axios, I think also Zod. Yes, but this is an inbuilt one. So we want to fetch data from the Chuck random API, and I think I'm going to first use the then. So here I can simply get a response. You can call it a resp. So what you get back is a response, but you can give it your own variable name. You can call it Chuck jokes, but we usually call it response, and we call an arrow function. Then you do something. So here you can say maybe not a return, console log response. Okay, so for the catch I really don't have anything. Let's see what we get in. So dispose check api.html, go live. Okay, and inspect. console. So we see that we have a response which has many things. But we are getting, so when you see status 200, it means that the data has been fetched successfully. So since these are many things, we have type calls, URL redirected, and many other properties. We want to fetch the JSON. So here I'm just going to, since I now I'm getting the response, I'm going to say return. Response.json. So we need this data in the JSON format because it was returned when we click on here. Even from the response, we have seen that it is in the JSON format. Here I can also console log. Response.json. Just to see that the new data that we have. Or I can put this in a variable and console log that variable, but let me see. This, okay, can't find the variable return response. Okay, so I think return and console log are conflicting. Instead of return, let me say console. So now we can see that we are now getting the data instead of getting everything. The categories, created ad, icon, URL, status, many other things, and then the promise prototype as we looked at prototypes yesterday. So here we can look through the result and we can see that we have the key values, we have the created art, so things like that. Okay, so now I want to pick this. I want to be picking the jokes. So after this, I want just to return the data. And then after returning it, return response.json. I can call another then use this data to do something. Some want to put it around here .then. So then we can have this return data. And we say chucks joke will be assigned to. If I just assign it to data, I can console log chucks joke. You see that it is console logging the same response. So, but I need to find this value. And we said one of the ways to access a value of an object, because that's an object, is to use the dot notation. and the dot key, name of the key. So we saw that the key is value. And if I console log this, you will have Chuck Norris only uses his gun sights as bottle openers. If I refresh this again, apparently Chuck. So these jokes are coming back very well, because we saw that the key was the data we get dot value. So this is one of the ways we fetch data. It's not that always data will be in this format. Some data will come back as an array, and it's upon you to get this data. Perhaps we can make sure that we now use this data on the screen so that it makes more value. Because it makes more value when it makes more sense when this data is maybe showing here, or we are using it in some way. So just adding on the sessions we had previously, if you want to have this data on the screen, we could have a div, one of the easiest ways. You can give it an ID is Chuck jokes. And yeah, so now with my Chuck API, I can have something like this. Document, because I want to display this data within that div, get element by ID, and the ID is Chuck jokes dot inner HTML, and I give it the variable Chuck jokes. Okay, so with this I've got then this data, and I put it in Chuck jokes. So for me, I think for me to, okay, let me see. We have it here. Chuck Norris is so fast. Lil Wayne is using because of Chuck Norris. Yeah, so it is being fetched. So probably now you can add on other things. Yeah, maybe you can add on something like a style to just put some good vibe on it, but that's the key. Maybe font size, font weight, bold, font size 20 pixels, and from there you start editing your work. So we've gone from just having an API endpoint that was shared with us. We don't know how the database looks like, but from the API endpoint, we have picked data and we are able to display it on our screen. So I think we shall always be having some of these nuggets. There are many other things like this structuring as a topic, callback APIs, as we go through sessions. So I want to stop here with JS, and then we're going to React. Any questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, So we can create a new program. So this is the here npm create vite at latest is the starting point. So what is really React? React is simply a framework used to build fully fledged apps using JavaScript. And we are going to see that actually this framework was really derived from this JavaScript. And as it compiles, as the code compiles, you will see that it is compiling back to an HTML page. So building on the JavaScript and HTML we've had, the way we create a new React app, there are very many frameworks. We have Vite, Vue, Angular, and things like that. So we are going to use Vite framework for creating our new React app. And opening the folder that we are going to create our React app. Cohort 2. I think it's going to be where? React intro. Okay. So for us to create a new React app, use this command. So you can view terminal, or there is no terminal here. So there is terminal here, but there should be terminal. Yeah, view terminal or terminal. This one, all command and the caret. So when I click on terminal, my terminal opens up. And in here, I can write the command for me to start a new React application using Vite, which is npm create Vite at latest. So npm create Vite at latest. So in order for you to for this command to work, you should have installed some things. So for you to have a React app working, you have to have installed Node.js. So if you haven't installed Node.js, you go to the Node.js website, get Node.js if you're on Windows. If you're on a Mac or Linux, again, go through how to install it and make sure it is installed. You can also install other things like Burn if you're going to use them. But with that, you can create a React app. And this is the command for creating a React app using Vite framework. And you can say Vite at latest or Vite at the Vite version you want to have, maybe Vite version 5, version 6, or Vite at latest. So to create a React app with the latest version. If I press enter, you see, so Vite version 8.9, proceed, Y, enter, and yes. So the project name that I want to name this session X, and will ask me, do you want me to use vanilla JavaScript, the Vue framework, or React? I'll go for React. And do you want to use TypeScript with React compiler, TypeScript with, then we have JavaScript and React compiler, then JavaScript, then Risk for those who have Risk VM, React Router v7, Redwood SDK, Vike. So all that, you use the thing you want to use. I want to use JavaScript. That's all. Use Vite 8 beta experimental. I can say yes for now. Install with npm start, yes. So installing dependencies. So now we are creating a React application using Vite. And as we install dependencies, there are other things that we need to look at. We could look at here is my session X, and you're seeing, when you see the folder, there's a lot of folders. We have the public, we have src folder.gitignore, we have eslint.config.js, index package.json, readme vite.config.js, and yeah, we are still installing. So there is a lot that these frameworks help you. They help make programming a lot easy, a lot faster, and they compress many things. This is taking time. Is it because we chose version 8? So it's installing. Probably could be looking at these what these files contain. So .gitignore contains the folders or files that we don't want to send to our GitHub. So when you're creating web apps from this, you want to host them to make them live, so you usually put them on GitHub and host them on platforms like Vercel. So there are some folders that you will not want to go together with your code. Files like node modules. So node modules are created when we install the dependencies, as we shall see, of an app. And as we continue to install the dependencies, there are other files like .env files, where you are keeping your secrets, secret phrases, maybe not secret phrases, but maybe your API keys. If you're building a smart contract, that could be your private key, where you keep things that are private to you. So you don't want this to go to GitHub to become public. Yes. Then there is this config. It simply configures many things pertaining the app. Package.json. This is where your dependencies and information about the app, the name, private, version, type, scripts, we shall be seeing these scripts, using them to build our app. Dependencies are kept, and dev dependencies. So the difference between dependencies and dev dependencies is that most dev dependencies are not bundled together, but they simply help you to be creating your app seamlessly. You have the README, you can put information about your application, how to recreate it. For those who want to, for example, to contribute to it, how they can quickly contribute to it and things like that. Since this is not finishing, I'm going to first installing dependencies with npm. So I can say Ctrl+C, terminate, and ls. I change into the directory, which is session 6, and I simply do npm install to reinstall the dependencies. Yes. So React as a framework, I encourage you to really learn it. It has some of its things, but we are going to break it down and know how we came to the framework. Okay, I think. And now, as you've seen, when this node module started installing, we got a new folder called node modules. So as long as you push your package.json, whoever wants to run your web app, when they run npm install, the node modules will automatically come. These are derived from the dependencies in your package.json. Okay, so where is the starting point of this program? The starting point of this program is the index.html. So everything in the Vite app will compile back to HTML pages. And when you look closely, here we have, this is like a typical HTML page. We have the head and we have the body. So in the body, we only have one div and a script. And when you look closely, this script is linking to src main.jsx. So what's JSX? JSX is a language that mingles, that uses both JavaScript and HTML in the same page. And when we go to our main.jsx, so as the starting point, we have an ID that is root that is linking to main.jsx. So when I go to my main.jsx, I can clearly see their imports and the restrict mode. So by default, we know that JavaScript behaves in a certain way. One of the ways we had to look at this is through hoisting. I think we don't look at it. But when you declare variables, for example, using the var keyword, they are all taken on top of the JavaScript file. And so to keep things in order, we use the strict mode, and we are calling, this is like a function. It's like calling a function up, but it is shortened just to call up. And yeah, and this app comes from a JSX file called app.jsx. You look closely and say there is create root document.get element by id root.render. So these are in the render method, and you see that it's simply a way of transferring HTML backwards to creating files that can take in both HTML and JavaScript, and they are named JSX. When we go to app.jsx, so this is the entry of our app. So if I'm to run this app, I think npm run dev. When I say npm run dev, this app starts at this localhost. For just the HTML files, we have been just going live, but you see that this app is starting at this localhost. And how does it come to start from there? When you look at package.json scripts, there is a dev script that will start the Vite app build to build it, preview for previewing. So now I can go to my web browser and click localhost 5173. And this is what comes, Vite React counter, and counter 1, counter 2. And when you look closely, the app.jsx, this is the content of app.jsx. And yes. So in essence, our JavaScript creating this framework was simply transferring HTML and JS into a framework that is easy to interact with, but using both the knowledge of HTML and CSS. And as we have said, these React components, they are called components. They use both HTML and JavaScript in the same folder. So you will see HTML elements like the divs, anchor tag, href, and whenever you want to implement the JavaScript, it will be put in curly braces. So on click, we call the on click set count. So we are calling this function and giving it a count. And this is set function. Okay, use state. And yes, so click Vite React App to learn more. So this is it. And this is the entire Vite application. There are many things we are going to look at in React. One of the things is the state, the use state, use effect, functions. Functions will be rebuilt from JS. So, yeah, be anticipating. Also, with HTML, with CSS, we could stay using normal CSS, but there has been a language that has been created to make sure that things are easier and seamless, and it's called Tailwind CSS. So my job today is just to introduce this, kick away the fear, give us a few nuggets. And so with Tailwind CSS, it compresses a lot of verbose designing, CSS design into something that is compressed and well meaningful. And you can see here some of its power. With just few lines, you can see that effects take charge. So you can integrate this in your Vite application. Yeah, just few lines create big differences. And this is the power of Tailwind CSS. And if you know Vite and you're using Tailwind CSS, many things will be easy for you. So I'm going to integrate Tailwind CSS. I'm going to integrate version 3. So version 4 was really far away from what version 3 was, and I'm comfortable using version 3. So when you come to the Tailwind documentation, and here you choose version 3.4 or 3, where you say 3, and for you to integrate Tailwind CSS in your app, you simply come and follow this. So install the Tailwind CSS. So you come npm install -d Tailwind CSS at 3. If you forget at 3, Tailwind CSS, which is the latest version. So here I'm going to first terminate. You can as well create a new terminal. When I come to my terminal, right here, there is this thing, there is a plus, there's a delete. And the difference is if I do a plus, I'll have two terminals here running concurrently. This is my previous one and this one. And if I click on X, the terminal disappears. So I can come back up here and view terminal. If I click on this and I click on delete, this terminal will actually, and what it was executing will disappear. So this delete will kill the terminal. But if I just click on the X, it doesn't kill the terminal, but the terminal just disappears. That's why when I brought back the terminal, these things came back. But when I click delete, actually it kills the terminal and you cannot see maybe your previous workings. So let's install Tailwind CSS. Okay, we've done that. And we have, this is the command, next command, npm init. That command is done. In your tailwind.config.js. So inside tailwind.config.js, I think I should now put this here. So when I installed those, tailwind.config.js automatically came. They're saying in content, I add this. So what I will do is just to copy it, Control copy, Control C, and then replace the entire content thing. So after that, add Tailwind directive to your CSS. So src input.css. Here src, I only have index.css. So I'll click on index.css and I add these at the top. Before the root. So start CRI. So start Tailwind. So I'm just going to use this Tailwind CSS text-3xl to see whether Tailwind has taken root. So P. Okay. I think here you can. So here just add class. Is it class name? I think this class name, this same class. Yeah, we already have class name. So I'm going to just say text -3xl. So this is not typical CSS, it is CSS that has been, and then I can start my app and see whether Tailwind CSS has been activated. Okay. You see that Vite and React are bold. So click here. Okay. Let me see. font dashboard underline. So font dashboard underline, and okay, it's class. Yeah, thank you. So it's class. Perhaps I didn't save somewhere. Control save. Control save. And yeah. So let me try and say h1 hello world. Underline. Okay, so going back here, it's supposed to be class. Hopefully it's supposed to be class. And the easiest to do is to inspect. If I don't property class, did you mean class name? So I think everything must be okay. Yeah, we shall see the issue, but that's the way it is added. And yeah, that's the start of our React app. There are some other things to go deeper into React, but for the sake of just initializing and starting our React app, I think it's better to stop here. So one of the things we are going to do next is, or if we get time in the future, components, data passing in components, use effect, use ref, and use state, and see how we manipulate data in React. All right, thank you so much. Have a great time. Maybe are there questions? Hey Ronnie, welcome to session 10. Ronnie, welcome to session 10. Is it there? Manuel, Aaron. Yeah, welcome. So allow me to end there on this session. Have a nice day. Probably maybe someone wants to add on that. I think we still have some time. Do you have someone who has something incredible? All right, have a great day. We could put this on the GitHub and then deploy this app. But for today, I think that's a good start for React. Okay. So Manu, what are you saying? We stop there, or we put it on GitHub and go through that process? All right. All right, so let's go on and deploy this app. We talked about the .git ignore file. So we have node modules which we really don't need. So here I will put in the files that I don't want to deploy on my GitHub, which is node modules. And for you to deploy on GitHub, you must have your Git logged in your GitHub. So you should go through the process of having Git on your account and having a GitHub account. And then in case you face some challenges, you can always post your challenges in the Telegram channel. So if I'm to open my GitHub account, you can as well follow me on GitHub and under repositories. Here there is new, so I can click on new. Repository name, Fast React app. Invite app. Yes, deploying invite app on GitHub. And in the configuration, you can choose a visibility to be private. That means you only want you to view it. I'm going to leave it public because I want people to access this and then play around with it. And you say create repository. So for you to create this, you must have a GitHub repository account. I think if you did the tests while coming to the bootcamp, then you have a GitHub repository. Oh, what's the issue? Okay. So here there is some commands for you to have a new repository. So when I come to my repository, there is git status. Git status looks to see what's the status of this Git account for this project. And here they said not a GitHub repository or any parent directory. So if I say git init is which is this, and I say enter, immediately you see that my files turn green. So when I say git status again, you will see here that I have sort of red-like files that will include all the files to be committed, but then the other error disappears. So status always checks the status of your Git account in your project. And here I have git add. So if you want to add a file to your Git, so there is Git on the local machine before you push your changes to the GitHub repository that is online. You first sort of arrange things from your Git. So here I will say git add. Instead of one file, if I click dot, means add all the files. So when I say git add dot, and I say now git status always checks for the status. You see that these files have turned green. So that means that all of them have been added. After there, you have to commit. So git commit -m, and here there is first commit. So -m is the message. Excited for my first commitment. And you can see that again these files have gone back to white. So when I say git status, they say on branch master. So from the time I click commit, I'll assemble them to now go to start going or get ready to be put on my GitHub repository, on this online GitHub repository. And I always want to be on git branch. They have said that on branch master, even when I say git branch, it will show master. But I have to change it to branch dash capital M main. As you can see here, you can always copy these commands. It's better to know them by head. So when I say git branch, you can see that it is showing main. And so this is git remote add origin, the link for this GitHub repository. So say git remote add origin, and I add the link to my GitHub repository. Enter. If I say git status, to check on the status. On branch main, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So git push -u origin main is the last command to push all the changes. Git push -u origin, which stands for upstream origin main. Please make sure you have the correct access rights and that the repository exists. So I have misspelled origin, not origin main. So after there, if I refresh here, you see that my files that are on my local computer have gone to my machine. This is the message I put, and this is the readme file. So if I change my readme file and push it, it will change this readme. So when you are going to hand in a project, when they ask for the GitHub repository, usually come here to your code and copy this. And again, when you look closely, you see that we don't have node modules because we added that folder to our .git ignore file. Now we want this to be an app that someone can see or interact with. We want it to be the counter that we saw on our local machine. How do we achieve that? There are platforms that can help us host this, like Netlify and Vercel. And if I go to Vercel, vercel.com, I think. So when you come to Vercel, if you don't have an account, you get an account. So I already have one. Let me see if I can create. I can go to vercel.com here. Vercel.com. So here on sign up, this is where you come and sign up or create an account. And follow the prompts and get an account. So once you are in your account, it will look something like this without a project. You will say add new. So if it is a fresh account, they'll tell you to import your GitHub repository. And for me, I've already imported my GitHub repository. So whenever I click add new, the reason it's not responding is because actually Vercel is still loading. Add new. If I click on project, it will go to the GitHub repository you linked, and we can see that we have our first Vite app here 8 minutes ago. I just click on import, and right here you can see if you have environment variables, those that you don't want to share, and you added them like in the git ignore file, you can always put them here. If your folder is not, if the current folder is not the active folder, you can put here the directory and click deploy. So once you deploy, you can always whether click on it or go to dashboard. When I click on it, I can get a link. This is the link that you always share of your working application. So you can see that we have it working the way it was working on our local machine. So you can usually get this up and share if you are handing in a project, or share with your friends. They ask for GitHub repository. You usually can come and get this repository from here and share. So this is the power of us moving from HTML to React. We have a fully functional app. So my quest for us is go back, research. React is its own framework, so there is a lot to cover. Since this is the beginning lesson of React, we did want to bombard us with very many concepts so that we have time to breathe and go through React, learn things on our own. You can always come here, fork this repository, make contributions, and create a pull request. Thank you so much. Any other inquiries? Should we add on some other concepts? All right, have a good day.